It's important because it's a way of life. Our ancestors passed this down from generation to generation. When I sing my songs and do my dances, I ask for guidance. I ask for the spirituality of the game. And I'm always told one thing every time, and that's this is the way we lived a long time ago.
Part spiritual ceremony, part social gathering, and always flat out competitive, the Native American game of stickball has the distinction of being perhaps the oldest organized sport in America, and is making a strong comeback, which spells good news for the health and continued longevity of tribal culture and tradition.
Stickballs is never been put to sleep. There have always been people, Chickasaw people, playing stickball. Always been men making sticks, always been women making stickball regalia or clothing. So it's not something that we have to recover, it's always there. People that are culturally involved and know their language and histories and culture, they're happier and healthier people.
To those unfamiliar, stickball appears similar to many popular modern games, in particular lacrosse, which is basically field hockey. Stickball predates lacrosse, however, and that's an important distinction. At some point in the past, the games may have commingled, but stickball is a unique sport.
People want to compress these two things like they're the same thing, but the Southeastern game is it's different. It's much different than the lacrosse game. As long as oral history goes back, and as far back as the written record, Chickasaws have been playing ball. And our neighbors to the northeast, the Iroquois Confederacy and all those guys, they play lacrosse, which is another version of ceremonial ball game. They play with one stick. I don't want people thinking that lacrosse and stickball are the same, because they're really not.
As the name suggests, the game of stickball involves sticks and a ball. There was no other equipment necessary to participate in the game. Where lacrosse utilizes nets, stickball is unique in that the goal is to score by striking a pole with the ball. All that's needed is opposing teams and a field of play.
But whether you're talking about the Creeks or the Seminoles or the Chickasaws or the Choctaws, the stickball game involves two sticks like this, made out of hickory or pecan or bodark, and a small ball about the size of a golf ball.
They're a part of your body. Whenever you pick them up, it's like an extra limb that you have. It's like your fingers that you can use to write with. These is a vital part of scoring.
And there's two versions. One is it's a ceremonial game played by men, only men, on a very large field, several hundred yards, and it's oriented east to west. And that's the men's game. And then there's a single pole game that's played by men and women around a single pole. Oftentimes they'll have a fish or like a cow skull at the top, and that's oftentimes played beginning in the spring.
The men's game has always been played full speed and full contact. It was and is by nature extremely competitive and can be dangerous. This east-west game, also known as the Little Brother War, is played between two different tribes. In the past, the game was more than just a sporting event.
It could have been over land issues, water issues. It could have been over hunting areas, just about anything. But and instead of us going to war with one another and killing each other with our weapons, we took it to the stickball field, and the best players would be out there playing.
There was a historical account of these two tribes in the southeast that were arguing over this particular body of water, where a lot of swans happened to live, and swans were ceremonially important. So rather than going to fight for real, they had the ceremonial game, and the winner got the rights to that lake. The rules and how the game was played was governed by medicine men. They call them hopai. It's like a prophet or a seer. And then there was also a likchi, who were also a kind of doctor.
And if you can imagine, a long time ago, when we played on a field that was 300 yards all the way around, and we still would have the post set about maybe 150 yards in between, but the field went all the way around. And at any given time, there was 250 players on the team at one time. So it could have been 500 players on the field at one time playing. And if you can imagine them going for one ball it got pretty bad. These games could go 4 or 5 days because that many players on the field, you wasn't going to score as easy as 20 or 30 on the field today.
The modern version of the East-West game is played on a smaller field with fewer participants, but the ancestral spirit of competition is alive and well. While the game is no longer used to settle disputes, bragging rights and even a possible national championship provide teams with plenty to play for.
Our East and West games are played on a 120-yard field by 50-yard field, so it's big as a football field. And where the posts are set is 10 yards in. And if you can imagine 30 players on a team, and we split them up into sections, like 3 sections like you would do a soccer field. We have 10 on the offense, 10 on the midfield, and 10 on the defense. And sometimes the game would get out of whack where all 30 players are running back and constantly, except for 2 guys, which would be the goalies. It's all about keeping your head on a swivel because you want to know where that next guy is going to be at, the defensive guy. It's pretty hard to actually score points because some players might be just now starting and some players might be veteran players. So, if you can imagine catching a ball and then shooting and never shot before, it might go straight to the ground or it might go way over, as to you see veteran players looking and carrying the sticks around and then just shooting, and they can hit pretty much a dime on a pole if they wanted to every time. That's how skillful they are.
The other popular form of stickball involves one pole located in the center of the playing field. This version is less competitive and, unlike the East-West game, allows women to participate.
The single pole game is a social game. It's a pole that's about 20, maybe 24 foot high. We got either a fish, which is called nanikalo, which means hard fish, or we could use a buffalo skull. So the single pole game is the point scored is by hitting either the fish or the buffalo skull. And then there's a painted part on the bottom of the pole, which is about the length of a stick that is painted from the top. And when you hit the painted part, that's also scoring. Anything below that painted part doesn't count. The scoring is always the fish. The fish counts as 3, and then the painted part counts as 1. A lot of times when they kept score, they would have sticks laying on the side. So when a team scored, they would move it up, and usually it went up. I think it was like 10 or 11, and then they would go all the way back down. So the team that went up and came back down would be the winner of that game. It was also called Aka Battle, which means that men and women are playing, and it was a game of socialization.
Although the modern game of stickball carries significant sporting overtones, it remains deeply rooted in Native American religion and tradition. For many, the game still resonates with much deeper meanings.
There's a broad range, I think, of perspectives on stickball and what it means. When we think of like the World Series of stickball, it's in Philadelphia, the Mississippi Choctaws. They have huge organized teams that play against each other all year long. They get together, this one time to figure out who's the best team. Whereas in Oklahoma, we still have strong ceremonial ground traditions. And some of those ceremonial people are not interested in playing this kind of intramural athletic game. It's a part of their religion. The ceremonial version of this stickball game was tied, just completely tied. You couldn't separate it from ceremonial ground religion. They're part and part of each other, you can't remove them.
Whenever I play, and I know other players are like me, I get ready a couple of days before. I pray to the Creator, ask Him for strength, ask Him for agility, ask Him for health. Stickball is our traditional game that's been passed down from generation to generation. It coincides with our stomp dance songs and our stomp dances. After dancing, we would go straight to the stickball field to play our traditional game. But the mental part of it is just connecting one with each other on the field as your brother, as you would. He might not be your blood brother, but in actuality, he is your brother by tribal affiliation. So to get connected to him and connect as a team. That's what makes winning a big part of our game.
After a period of relative dormancy, the popularity of stickball is once again on the rise as younger Native Americans are embracing the athletic and spiritual aspects of the old game.
There's a lot of kids that are becoming interested in stickball, not just playing it, but like how to make sticks. I mean, like myself and the other guys that still make ball sticks, I mean, our kids are around it, they experience that, and maybe they want to pick it up too.
Here in Oklahoma, we've been playing 3 games in the last 2 years. My team that I have, we would get 16, 17 players. Now we jumped up to 40 or 50. But when we play together, there's always around 150, 200 players that come out to play. So I see a big progress already, and it brings a great sense of relief that I know that we're doing something right. The Creator, the ancestors, and our elders and our family have been behind us 100% to do what we're doing, and that's keep this game alive.